hello again, or should we be saying namaste? We really should be saying namaste more than hello, a lot more than we do. But this week, particularly when India said namaste to POTUS and FLOTUS, and how they were given a welcome fit for a king and queen, as we saw. And of course, the welcome would never have been complete without that signature bear hug between the two leaders. Whirlwind 36 hours of US President Donald Trump's first India visit. Here's a flavor of it.
A red carpet welcome greeted United States President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump as they descended from Air Force One at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad on February 24th. This is President Trump's first visit to India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted Trump with his signature bear hug to reiterate the warmth and friendship shared by the two leaders. The whirlwind 36-hour trip began in Ahmedabad with a visit first to the Sabarmati Ashram and then to the Motera Stadium, where a crowd of about 1 lakh people were waiting for them.
India gives hope to all of humanity. In just 70 years, India has become an economic giant, the largest democracy ever to exist, and one of the most amazing nations anywhere in the world.
After Ahmedabad, it was touchdown at Agra, where the US President and his First Lady were greeted by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. They drove straight down to the Taj Mahal to soak in its grandeur and romance. On the second day of the visit, Trump and Modi focused on business, while First Lady Melania Trump visited a government school in Delhi where the focus was on happiness. There were a few deals signed with India as well. India is buying attack helicopters and other US military equipment worth $3 billion. Then the other big deal is with ExxonMobil, which will see India importing more liquefied natural gas, that is LNG, from the United States of America.
But, and it was a tragic but, communal riots broke out in Delhi just as President Trump came visiting. We've seen nothing like this in a long time. A word now with Anand Narasimhan on the visit and what accompanied it. Anand, we haven't seen this kind of communal riot in Delhi now for a generation and more. Violence hit Delhi just the very day Trump came visiting. Could this have been coincidence?
There clearly was an attempt to try and derail and take the attention away from the Trump visit to India and try and create some amount of negativity around us. It is not a coincidence that all these suddenly spontaneous road blockages started happening in areas beyond Shaheen Bagh in the what is called parts of northeast Delhi or the Jamna Par area or the parts of Delhi which are the other side of the river Yamuna bordering the Uttar Pradesh region. So where Delhi shares its border with the state of Uttar Pradesh. So this region, and if you were to see it, is that this entire pattern of violence and all happened in a pocket which erstwhile was actually a slum settlement, which has got a lot of these unauthorized colonies which are scheduled to be regularized, and there is a population of around 2.5 million people there. There were two metro stations where suddenly on the weekend, that is just 24 hours before Trump's touchdown on Indian soil, sit-in dharnas around against CAA started happening. Now, when these sit-in motions happened, this started on Saturday evening at 6 p.m. There was a call and everybody started blocking the roads, and there was a deliberate attempt to try and stoke some amount of unrest. That it snowballed into a riot-like situation was something which perhaps caught the entire establishment unawares. They tried to keep the focus away from it, but yes, it was not a coincidence There seemed to be a deliberate plan around trying to derail or trying to create some amount of negativity, especially with the attention the protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act have got.
Clearly, both Trump and the Indian government ignored the Delhi situation for purpose of the visit anyhow. Was there some determination to not let the Delhi situation come in the way of this visit?
Well, they did not ignore it, but they tried to make sure that the larger cause, the cause was two nations engaging with each other. Both nations have had issues of strife. It's not that there haven't been any issues as far as America is concerned. It was an internal issue. What is happening in Delhi was an internal issue. Both Trump and Prime Minister Modi were able to try and understand this and say, let's try and steer clear of issues that are internal issues and not pass a comment here when the summit was supposed to be engaging as two nations, as engaging with each other and furthering ties and going forward as nations, because India could have raised a lot of issues which would have been uncomfortable to Donald Trump. The idea was that because of the equation the two leaders share, that they will keep the focus positive. They will keep the focus on moving forward together as two nations, moving forward as partners, strategic partners, allowing the respective leaders to deal with internal issues and internal strife.
An attempt was made to draw Trump out on the CAA and on religious issues. Would India have reason to be reasonably happy with his response or non-response?
Trump was very clear. Sanjay, Trump was very, very clear as he began the press conference, as he started to speak. He said, I am not going to say anything controversial, because we want the focus to be on the engagement between the two nations, how India has welcomed somebody who represents the American people, and I want to take a message back to the Indian diaspora back in America that their interests are well protected. Trump is very clearly angling at the Indian American voter base and the lobby to try and help him, not just with funds, but also with a significant shift from a largely Democratic base move towards Republican, because when you look at the electorals and how the elections happen, every single vote counts, and if they are able to sweep even certain pockets, they get the entire pool of the electoral votes. So he has come with a clear strategy saying that yes, the Indian American group and that lobby is important for me, and I'm going to positively engage with them. So he said, I'm not going to make any controversial statements. They did try to draw him out on CAA, and perhaps had he engaged further, they would have asked him about the situation in and around Delhi, and he said, I'll leave it for Modi to handle it. So clearly Trump was prepped for it, Team Trump was prepped for it. Clearly PM Modi would have told Donald Trump how to address this question if it is asked in the press conference. They tried to ask it repeatedly, but Trump held his line. He didn't move away, and that is credit to both the leaders and, more importantly, India's ability to prevail over America.
How did the Pakistan factor play out? Trump did say US relations with Pakistan have improved.
Well, America has a sticky situation right now. They know Pakistan is a pain, Pakistan is a pest, so they want to keep the pressure on Pakistan. See, the FATF blacklisting or grey listing is because of a significant pressure from America. America is exerting pressure not because of terrorism emanating from Pakistan, which is hurting India, but because of terrorism emanating from Pakistan, which is affecting America and its interest vis-a-vis Afghanistan. He's very keen to go back to his constituency and say that he's been able to do what past presidents have not been able to do, that is withdraw troops from Afghanistan. And he has said that this is the 1 week period. Now, we are almost close to about 6-7 days where largely things have been peaceful in Afghanistan. So if this peace deal has to be inked, he has said, I want 1 week of peace, 1 week of ceasefire, and let's see if that can be maintained. So clearly it was day 2 when he addressed the media and when he was in India at that point in time. Pakistan was mentioned, and that's what he said. He said, I have great equations and relations with Imran Khan, but he has to do a lot. We have good relationships with Pakistan because America was keeping its interests in Afghanistan in mind, and they need Pakistan to ensure that Afghanistan remains peaceful, and there is this very uneasy peace that's been brokered. There is some stability and solidity. Afghanistan has also seen elections and the existing regime come back into power. So to keep stability, he needs to keep Pakistan in control. But the victory for India is that he said, we are going to ask Pakistan to deal with all terror emanating from its soil. So that's where India's interests come into play.
Thanks, Anand, for giving us a perspective on this. And now let's see what our reporters witnessed on the streets of northeast Delhi.
There is a food patrolling, flag march is happening right here in the Zafrabad area. So they have come from Selampur. They are now moving inside Zafrabad. This side is Babarpur. So this is an exercise called area dominance. So this is what the Delhi police is doing. They are with the paramilitary is with the Delhi police only. They are doing food patrolling. An ACP rank official and a DCP rank official, they both are here. They are leading the march. They are going into the interior of Babarpur and Zafrabad so that people have a confidence that the miscreants should not come back on the road.
Remember, this is the epicenter of violence, and Special Commissioner S.N. Srivastava has been given the charge to look into this matter and to take a stock of the situation. Security has been tightened up here. You can see the convoy of S.N. Srivastava going towards Mojpur, Zafrabad, and taking the stock of the security here.
आप लोग कहाँ जा रहे हैं?
बरेली।
बरेली क्यों जा रहे हैं?
सर ये लड़ाई झगड़े के चक्कर में।
तो आप लोग छोड़ के जा रहे हैं कि कुछ दिनों के लिए बस जा रहे हैं?
कुछ दिनों के लिए जा रहे हैं।
फिर वापस आ जाएंगे?
हाँ, मामला शांत हो जाएगा, आ जाएंगे।
पर काम का नुकसान नहीं होगा?
सर मजबूरी, बच्चे देखें, काम देख रहे हैं।
उपद्रवियों का कुछ पता नहीं है कब कैसे क्या हालात बिगाड़ दे।
It's time for a quick break, but on the other side, a conversation between two global titans you don't want to miss. Welcome back, and let's get straight to that fireside chat between Mukesh Ambani and Satya Nadella on India, technology, the Trump visit, and much more.
What can the next 10 years represent? Maybe you can share, like you've talked about like how Indian economy will grow and how digital will be a big part of it. Maybe share your thoughts on how you see perhaps this economy thrive in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Before I answer that, Satya, on behalf of all of us, a very warm welcome to India and Mumbai. And I can tell you that I wanted to warmly congratulate you on your leadership and the transformation and the success of Microsoft over the last many years. And I think every Indian is very, very proud. What I admire about and what I learn in terms of saying that if in your leadership style, what you've demonstrated that if you have empathy, if you rely on partnerships and build trusts and relationships, and if you think about every mistake as a learning opportunity, and if you believe that it's not products or profit, but really people and their continuous reinvention of capability, that's the strength of the organization. I think all of us in India Inc. are inspired, and thank you for all your leadership. Personally, I'm very committed, and I'm very privileged, Satya, that you have committed to India on a scale that I never anticipated that a multinational will. And we are very excited about the partnership that Jio and Microsoft will have. And I think that that will be, as we look at this decade, will be a defining partnership. So thank you for your commitment to India. We are having millions of people on the street, each one of them having their own personal experience with their phones, and the network strong enough. And I think I can easily say that the mobile networks in India now are better or at par with anybody else in the world. And that's the big change. If you then even think about your own journey and think about 1992 when you joined Microsoft, right? India was $300 billion. Today, India is $3 trillion. And fundamentally, right, this whole progress, right, in a certain way has happened on the back of technology. In the early days, it was Rajesh's TCS, Infosys, and all of them who drove technology in India. And that really kick-started with the financial, with all the economic reforms, kick-started this whole growth paradigm. It was supercharged in 2014 when Prime Minister gave us the vision of Digital India. And if you then see what followed, and I was again privileged to play a very small role in it in terms of with the launch of Jio. And just to share with you and the audience, pre-Jio, right, we had 256 kbps, which we called broadband in India. And post-Jio, we now have 21 Mbps on mobile data as the average speed available in every single village in India.
That's amazing.
Pre-Jio, price of data in this country was between 300 and 500 rupees. And for the poorest of poor, right, who used 2G, the price was as high as 10,000 rupees a GB. Post-Jio, the price is between 12 and 14 rupees a GB. And the usage, right, and a lot of like what Jio has achieved in the last 3 years is 38 crore people, 380 million customers have migrated to this 4G technology. And that tells you the enthusiasm in the youth of India, the enthusiasm in consumption in India, and the enthusiasm even in my mother, who's 85 years old, and the amount of time she spends, right? So in your language, she has the greatest tech intensity and tech adoption. So I think that's really what has happened. So consumption has also gone up, and this has really become a people's movement. And when you then talk about the financial sector, right, we just introduced UPI, and with digitization in December, right, we had 100% growth, and total UPI transactions in this country digitally were 2 lakh crores. So what has happened is that because we've got infrastructure, right, we are accelerating, and we are just at the beginning of this whole journey.
And that's one of the things, Mukesh, I was going to ask you, because in some sense, all of what you've done in laying out the network capability, you talked about what that has led to, this, people being empowered, consuming more, using more, and you have the best rates and connectivity today. Now, you also have an ambition to say, what can you do for small businesses, medium businesses, large, because you're now even saying, okay, how do we, in fact, our partnership in some sense is about how do you take what I talked about, combine it with your domain expertise, your technology, and completely change even the landscape of broad sectoral change.
So let me, again, Satya, start with saying that Reliance was founded as a startup, even before startups became, like my father founded Reliance with a table and a chair and 1,000 rupees. It was 5 decades ago. It then became a micro industry, then it became a small industry, medium. Today, you can consider us large. Right? I have been, again, very fortunate in terms of knowing Steve and Bill from my Stanford days. So it was even before Microsoft was founded. Steve was being recruited by Bill.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have seen the growth of Microsoft
There
since then.
must have been something in the air that both of you dropped out.
And why I'm saying this is fundamentally to just drive the point that every small business and entrepreneur, right, has the potential in India to become a Dhirubhai Ambani or a Bill Gates.
That's a lot of faces of India we've looked at. See you again next weekend.